What are the rewards for giving up drugs and alcohol and entering an active life of recovery in the 12 steps? I made this video so that you can see and feel what it might be like to have some time in recovery and to attend a 12-step meeting. I invite you to adopt the point of view of the camera, which is that of a person who actively listens and focuses on the faces of the people as they share their stories. I know this may be difficult, but I hope you see some possibilities for yourself, your friends, or your family.
7 years and 5 months to the day. Yeah.
I'm 3 days shy of 4 years.
I have 9.5 years clean and sober.
I just celebrated 18 months.
I have 4 years and 9 months.
2 years and almost 2 months.
5.5 years clean.
So I'm coming up on 8 years.
2 years in July.
A little more than 14.
I have a little over 8 years.
49 months, 49 and a half months.
Today I have 3 months.
I'll be celebrating 10 years.
I think I've been counting it a day at a time, so 53 weeks.
And how did you accept that you needed help?
My therapist just asked the right question. What was I afraid to share with anyone?
My doctor kind of held me over a barrel because he knew how messed up I was, and literally held the painkiller in one hand and said, "I'll help you with this, but you're going to treatment."
I had to lose my family, my house, the respect from my parents. I was on the run from the police.
I found myself without those three things, my family, a job, or my health, and realized that drugs and alcohol were contributing to that loss, and I was unable to quit.
Everybody around me was getting high, and there was no combination or amount of drugs that would change the way I feel.
I didn't even get high anymore, so I was like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just tired of it all.
My last journey was living in a trailer in the mountains and pounding drugs in my arm about every 15 minutes till I ran out. And then I go to town and rob dope dealers and pound more. It was miserable.
I was living in a railroad tunnel in California, and I was living in a tent, and I just didn't have anything, it was something I tried to get away from. I didn't have any home, and when I wasn't there, I was stealing wine and walking around and panhandling, and it just showed me that I had no hope.
I think it was just this hopelessness that if something didn't change, that soon, I was 22, 23 at the time, that if something didn't change, that my life would slowly pass me by. You know, as a con, as a thief, as a burglar, just as a disappointment.
And I ended up in jail, I ended up in court, I ended up in trouble of one sort or another in the hospital. I was handled very roughly at gunpoint by a bunch of guys in camo outfits and grease paint and lots of big guns. And I realized that I could have died had I made one false move.
In the middle of my addiction, I tried to commit suicide.
I was depressed all the time. I didn't want to live.
How I hit my bottom was that, one day I just wanted to commit suicide. And I went into the car, got all these bags of balloons, and just shot it all up.
Is recovery painful?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine my life without drugs.
The thought of stopping usage altogether was unconceivable to me.
One of the really tricky problems, I think, early on is realizing that life can continue without those substances.
For me, stepping into the unknown was the scariest part of beginning recovery.
Recovery is very painful at times. It's scary. But I'd also like to reflect on the terrifying experiences I had when I was using. I didn't know one day to the next if I was going to live or die. Today I know that I'm going to live.
You know, yes, it's painful, but it got better. I just threw people what they say, you know, it'll get better, and I couldn't do it alone.
I think the things that stand in the way of recovery are painful. Getting to that point of humbleness where I say, I need help, I can't do it alone.
For me, a lot of the pain doesn't necessarily come from the change, it comes from the resistance of change.
Recovery is the ability to experience life.
Life brings us pain, and the thing about doing it in recovery is that you get to feel it.
You feel sadness better, you feel anger better, you feel joy better, and happiness better. So parts of it are really painful because you don't have anything to like buffer that pain. But it seems like to me the times that I feel in pain are the times that I usually end up having like a learning experience or growing a little bit.
I've come to the point where I know that when I make it through whatever's hurting me, that I'm going to come out for the better.
Recovery's just been a process of growing up. And, you know, there's growing pains involved in growing up.
It was hard for me to learn to vent my anger in appropriate ways.
It's kind of a relearning process, and it's kind of an awakening process. And I don't know if it's as painful as it is that you have to look at yourself.
Having to take a real clear look, say, at my negligence as a parent. That was not pleasant. But certainly dealing with it, facing it, was better than letting it slide as it had while I was using. So, difficult and painful, yes, but certainly from the point of view of it being a process of healing, it was positive.
When I was using, I also have a child, and I missed the first couple years of her life, the first couple steps, the first words. Now I have a wonderful relationship with her.
And if I'm crying, I can always pray, or I can always help somebody else and have coffee with somebody else. And tell somebody that I'm feeling a certain way, and we can make it through the day. But when I'm using, I don't have the choice to get out of pain and suffering.
Do you still think about using?
I listen to people, you know, talk about partying and talk about, you know, what they're going to do this weekend, and I think, yeah, he's going to have a hard time getting here Monday, and I used to do exactly the same thing, and things have changed to where my life isn't a bed of roses, but it's so much more clear to me, and it's so much better for me that I look at that kind of conversation and I say, boy, am I glad I'm not doing that.
I think about using sometimes, but the desire to do that, it's not something I wish I could do. It's something, when I think about it, usually my thoughts are, I'm really glad I don't have to do that anymore. And I'm really, really grateful I don't want to do that anymore.
I think about using drugs very infrequently. It pops into my head. It's a little thought. It floats by, and it goes away. I don't deny it.
I still think about using, but I don't just get up and use like I used to.
But when it comes up, I'll either think about what's going on, or I just kind of shake it off and laugh and go, yeah, right, that's what I want to do, use drugs and destroy my life. I've come too far to throw it all down the toilet.
On occasions, I do think about using when I'm having difficult times in my life.
It happens. It happens with the old halt thing. If I get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. It happens when I don't take care of my responsibilities and I find things building up.
I think about using when I feel hopeless. And when I feel hopeless, it's because I'm not working my program spiritually.
Thoughts of using? No, because there's solutions to all the problems that I've encountered so far. And sometimes there is no solution, but not to just get loaded was the engraved bottom line that I got.
How do you deal with thoughts of using?
That's probably one thing that I've learned, is that it doesn't chase away all the bad things. It doesn't do any good to try to escape, because as soon as you're back, and so is everything else. So I've found a different way to handle dealing with it.
I think it through to the next step. Then what? Okay, I'll use, then what? Then what happens? And I believe that if I start, I can't stop.
I try to play a tape, I try to say, okay, this is, if I went out and used, I'd say I'd start off with alcohol. I'd start drinking. And I couldn't stop at one, I'd have to have at least 10.
When I think about using, I always, right from the start, think about the consequences. I don't think just about the first use. I think about the last use. And I think about the uses in between. I think about the people that I hurt, and the lies that I told, and the crimes that I committed.
That I talk about it, I write about it, pray about it, go to meetings.
I deal with those feelings by calling my sponsor, or calling people in the program, or reading some literature, or going to a meeting, a 12-step meeting, or writing. Writing's been real useful in my recovery.
I have to call up someone, and I usually call up my sponsor.
I call my sponsor, I read, I write. Writing is one of the big tools that I use today.
I go to meetings. I talk about my feelings.
Why do you still attend 12-step meetings?
I still attend 12-step meetings because I believe that they keep me on track. They keep me paying attention to what's going on in my life.
The most gentle way I can check in with where I'm at in my recovery is to go to a meeting. And never fails that I can empathize with what people say, or at least with one person says, with where I'm at.
It's like a safe place to talk about what's going on with me, and learning how other people are doing the same things that I'm going through.
That's one thing that's kept me going back, is that I learned to understand some of the feelings I've got that I don't understand as I'm going through them, by listening to the people that I'm with talk about theirs.
So I meet with the same people that I've been meeting with for 9 years. So I don't get to hide, I get to be who I am and know that I'm in a safe place to do that, and that there's loving acceptance, and that there's people in the room who are taking this same journey.
I have probably, I could without exaggeration say, hundreds of friends that I have in those meetings that I've known throughout the years, that I get to see from time to time. And it feels like every meeting feels kind of like there's some family there.
Another thing I get at meetings is I get fellowship, which is something that I believe that every addict wants, deep down inside.
I have relationships with people today that that I have friendships and that I feel closer to than I do people in my immediate family.
I like the company of alcoholics and addicts. I liked their company when I was using, and I like their company clean. And these are people that I have a lot in common with, and they remind me that I am okay.
I've been in rooms with 10,000 addicts, with 10,000 people in recovery, and there's not a greater feeling in the world. I'm not alone.
I feel that there's a connection even bigger in the group, that when I realize that there's you know, at a certain given time, there's meetings all over the world that people are believing in what I'm believing in.
I went to Mexico 2 weeks ago and stayed with a friend from the program, and we went to a recovery house up there and saw a lot of people, you know, guys that were kicking on dirt ground, on these little cheesy mattresses and stuff, and no running water. And then I went into their meeting room and I saw the steps. You know, and it just tells me how powerful this program really is.
I learned, I think, that meeting, or at least early on, that these people weren't failures, that these people were really successful, and that they weren't weak. They were very strong to be in the program.
You can see it's out there, and that's another reason that I attend the meetings. I see people that are 3 and 4 and 10 years ahead of me in their recovery, and that gives me a great deal of strength.
25 plus years of getting loaded doesn't go away in a little while. You know, but if I can stay clean long enough to let that stuff start soaking in, you know, then I learn those things. You know, most of all, I think it's by example, you know, by people like my sponsor, you know, and watching people and seeing how they do them.
As I was going around buying beers and stuff, I saw people in the program that always waved to me, and they wanted me to come back, and I knew that I could come back. You know, pride is something I put aside, and I came back.
I've seen a lot of people stop going to meetings and get loaded.
I can become stagnant, and I can fall back into old thinking, and I can feel lost, and I can forget where I came from.
I'm not very far from going out and using. I think that's really important, that I remember exactly where I came from.
Recovery is not a permanent sort of thing. And I like to think of it in terms of, say, someone with a serious physical problem like diabetes. It takes vigilance.
I have to do things to continually move forward. Because I've proven to myself if I don't, I go backwards.
I think what I've come to learn is that nothing is static. Nothing stays in one place.
It's a journey, and it's not something that you attain and then have. It's just a process that doesn't stop. It just goes on, and it subtly changes as the years go by.
How does it feel to speak at meetings?
There's just something about meetings, saying what I'm saying, and just people nodding their heads, or people listening, or even if they're staring out the window. I mean, I say what I need to say for me. It just takes the power out of whatever's going on.
The most important thing for me to do is to talk about that pain.
I found it hard to talk about exactly what I'd gone through, and I forced myself to talk about it because I knew that that was the only way that I would heal.
It feels good to release it, you know, to talk about it.
I spent my whole life hiding how I felt, and today I can talk about it out loud.
It seems to take the power out of my problems when I share them with others.
Lots of times I'll unravel what a problem is when I'm speaking.
As I speak, I learn about myself. You know, I don't always know what I'm going to say. And then I start speaking, and I'm, you know, kind of surprised.
Sometimes after the meeting, someone will come up to me and say, oh, you know, I've been dealing with that same thing, or you know what I did in that same situation.
It leaves me feeling lighter. I get some things off my chest. I get to hear myself say what I've been thinking, and it sounds to me more real and acceptable once I've said it.
I might be saying something that is important for me to hear, and maybe one other person in the room, it's important for them to hear.
It's the language of the heart and the pain when I share my own experience and my strength.
When I'm called upon to speak early on in a meeting, or I chair a meeting, or I share early and spontaneously and don't plan it out, those to me are the most satisfying.
When I speak, I can get out of my head, and I don't let these little things build up that used to make me angry. And I could say things and other people can listen. I can hear myself and I can laugh. And when I speak, I feel a part of something.
I also need to share the good things and the positive things that are going on in my life, because I believe that that's part of the, you have to give away to keep what you have, and to show newcomers and other people that are maybe going through the same situation that it's possible to do something different.
Okay, and how has your life changed?
After the meeting today that I just went to, I spent 20 minutes talking to newcomers, and I think that's really important for me. It's important for me because I was one of those people when I came in the program that wasn't available to talk to anybody because I was too afraid.
The biggest part is having a relationship with me, not being afraid of who I am, not walking into a crowd of people and go, oh my gosh, they know I'm loaded.
I don't really think about using on a daily basis, and I'm really amazed by that. I used for 17 years and I didn't think it would be possible.
It's probably one of the biggest gifts of recovery. Not to struggle anymore.
The thought that I don't have to use drugs today is just such a miracle.
I don't see the need to escape or take control through intimidation and, that sort of thing, anger. And I feel a whole lot better about it. I don't, I handle things so much differently sometimes I surprise myself.
I deal with people today instead of hiding from them or intimidating them. I deal with them eyeball to eyeball, and it feels wonderful. It's definitely a new freedom. It's definitely something I never had before.
I'm a lot more level-headed. I'm a lot less prone to violent outbursts of anger, fits of rage. My behavior is a lot more consistent. Things that used to confuse me, social situations, social interactions, don't confuse me as much.
I had very, very violent, a very violent temper. I was very abusive to people that I was in committed relationships with. Those things have changed for me. I have goals, and I'm doing things that I didn't think were possible for me to do. I like myself today.
I enjoyed belittling people, because I didn't feel okay with myself. So I'd take it out on you, and I don't do that anymore, intentionally. I still slip back sometimes and go into it, but I'm aware of it now and I catch it.
I have an ability to listen a lot more, and that's a strength I never had.
When I first came into the program, I thought I knew it, and realizing after a couple of years, I don't know everything. It was the old ways of trying to survive, and this is the old ways I used to con and cheat and steal and manipulate, and those things don't work in my life anymore.
My willingness to listen has really, really grown. It used to be I didn't want to hear what anybody else had to say because I had a way up my own.
How I approach recovery, or how I approach the fact that I have the disease of alcoholism, has everything to do with my attitude. And I can be victimized by it, or I can really see it as something that's been a gift in my life, which it really has.
I have to look at things in a positive light and get the best out of situations. If I dwell on the negative, I'm in trouble.
Regardless of what's happening, things are so much different and so much better than they were before that I'm going to stick it out.
It's just like rebuilding an engine, I guess. I don't know how to put it, but I've been rebuilt, and the 12 steps have helped me rebuild. With people in the 12 steps, I've helped rebuild what was in pretty bad shape.
I work a regular job, which years ago I would have said was a sellout. And I find that it's not a form of slavery and it's not burdensome. A regular job is fulfilling to me and helps build my self-esteem.
I have a general feeling of happiness and well-being in my life today. I've been at the same job for 9 years. I've reunited and reclaimed my my place in my family. That's been really important. My health is good. I contribute to society instead of take away from it.
I'm off parole and probation in 7 days. I've been on parole and probation for 17 years.
Something, if you'd have told me this 20 years ago, I'd never believed it. And it fills me up inside. And I like that feeling. You know, that's nothing that I ever got from drugs.
And I've never thought I was capable of going back to school, and you know, because everybody was smarter than me and I didn't retain well. I mean, I had 1,000 excuses, and I'm really looking forward to it now. I really believe like I'm capable of achieving whatever I want to achieve.
10 years ago, somebody had told me that I'd be doing the work that I'm doing and that I'd be the kind of parent that I am and that I'd, you know, be a homeowner that, you know, that I've pretty much done on my own as well. I don't think that I had enough self-esteem at that time to believe that those things could have been possible.
My life has changed things-wise. I've acquired things, like I've had a job for 7 years. I started my own business. They loaned me money. I bought a house. You know, those are things that could have never happened to me the way my life was.
Well, some of those good things, I have a home. I don't have to forage for cardboard boxes to sleep on in the rain, and I have a lot of self-esteem.
I have a level of trust with so many people in my life today that was non-existent 4 years ago. I mean, people threw me out of their houses 4 years ago.
I'm dependable, I'm reliable, I'm honest. I have some self-discipline. Financially, I'm responsible. I have emotional skills.
How do you feel about your strengths?
At this point, I'm learning about my strengths and my capabilities. I'm learning how to discover what they are. It's a slow, it's a gradual process.
I made a list of things yesterday I wanted to do this morning, and I did them. And that's being capable to me, being able to make my commitments and making them realistic.
I try to maintain every day, the balance of my home, washing dishes, paying my bills, calling these people, keeping the communication. That way I don't get into letting things build up. That helps me to feel like I have given myself a chance.
I know what I'm capable of, good and bad. I know what I'm able to set some boundaries with people. I know what I'm comfortable with, and I feel like I have the right to arrange my life around those limits and abilities that I have.
And I feel a lot more confident. I mean, just in a lot of different areas. Like, I'm not uncomfortable with like going up and introducing myself to somebody or applying for a job, or I don't feel like what people think about me is what I am necessarily, you know.
I know how to reach out to people now. I have people in my life that are that close to me that I don't have to put the walls up. You know, I don't have to try and manipulate my way of being close to people. I can just let them know what's going on, and there's something real healing, real nurturing about that. That's a real strength.
I do a lot of different things for happiness, and spending time with my friends, you know, and sharing without no walls up.
You know, I can laugh at my addiction today.
I think laughter and joy are a tremendously important part of our lives. And I think, you know, I have a tendency sometimes to be too serious. It just seems to be a part of my personality. So, you know, I have to remember to lighten up.
So I'm able to enjoy these things today with no regrets, even though I make a lot of mistakes. It's okay today.
Are you a lovable person?
I definitely feel a lot better about myself today than I did even a year ago and even 6 months ago. And it just seems like my self-esteem gets better and better all the time as I continue to work my program. And
I remember my sister telling me right before I got clean that she had loved me, and I was right at the end when I didn't want to use, but I was using anyway, and she had said she loved me, and I just looked at her and said, you know, how can you say that? It just, now I think about it, it doesn't make sense for me to say that, but at the time it made perfect sense for me to question or be angry with her for telling me she loved me.
In the beginning, I was very untrusting, and it was very hard for me to open up and let people love me.
I think I didn't love myself 9 years ago. You know, it took a lot of work to believe that that I was worthy of being loved, and that I was worthy of close, intimate friendships, and that I wasn't any less than others.
After about a year in the program, I was willing to accept the love that other people were showing me, and by doing so, it enabled me to learn to like myself.
And love comes from not cutting people off and cutting situations off. So I don't want to cut off the light of day, which that's what my addiction does, even when I don't use.
And seeing how other people think of my good qualities, I'm able to see those clearer. I see myself clearer and understand that not only am I lovable, I'm capable of loving too.
I don't know which comes first, but as I was able to accept myself, I was able to accept other people.
To me, being an addict means something good. I guess now it's changed because I'm in a process now. There's a process going on where before there was just despair and hopelessness.
I think I'm a good person now.
For the first time in my life, people love me for who I am, and I don't want to give that up.
And they love me for who I am. I think that's the most gratifying thing that I could ever have. You know, I'm never alone. You know, sometimes I'm lonely, but I'm never alone.
Today, I know I deserve, you know, the good things in life that most people want, and that's to feel loved and to love and to be in a committed relationship, to possibly be a parent, to raise children in a healthy environment, and I believe I have the skills to do that.
I know it. I know that I'm a lovable person. And that took a while to figure out. And I believe it today even when I'm not having a good day.
And I remember when I was about maybe 7 or 8 years old, I looked around and God made everybody all different colors to see if we can become one. You know, that was my, you know, thing at 7 years old. And just, I wanted to have a lot of peace and harmony in life. And it wasn't so, you know, it wasn't so. But today I feel like I am that little girl that can be.
I'm a very lovable person. Today.
I would just encourage people to, if drugs and alcohol are not working for them, to follow a lot of people who have walked into that unknown place, because it's really great out here.